Donald Trump and J.D. Vance want to dismantle our healthcare system, repeal the Affordable Care Act, and eliminate protections for pre-existing conditions. Either these guys don't get it, or they just don't care.
New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham made health care central to her address at the Democratic National Convention last month in Chicago. During Tuesday's debate, former President Donald Trump reopened that discussion about repealing the Affordable Care Act, saying he has, quote, concepts of a plan. And Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham joins us now. Governor, great to see you. Thank you for taking the time. What's your response to how former President Trump handled the health care question at the debate?
Well, Robert, first, thanks for having me on. He didn't answer it. I mean, concepts, he has none. If he had anything, he would have been well prepared to talk about it. I was in Congress for most of our votes every single day in a Republican majority had something to do with directly or indirectly repealing the Affordable Care Act. The reason his own party, including the late Senator McCain, said no to repealing the Affordable Care Act is understanding what it does to middle-class Americans, people with pre-existing conditions, particularly minority Americans who, at the first time, have expanded coverage under the Affordable Care Act. There isn't a plan. They don't believe that health care is a fundamental right in this country. And if you don't believe that, you are not leaning in to provide coverage. And he made that, I believe, incredibly clear once again.
Vice President Harris clashed with Trump on the debate stage on the issue of abortion rights. How is that issue playing out in your state on the ground in terms of voter conversations with you and with other Democrats? Is it really a top issue in terms of driving Democratic turnout and maybe winning over some other voters?
Absolutely, it is, and it has been. New Mexico has been a very forward-leaning state in terms of making sure that we are a place where women all across America can seek reproductive health care, abortion care, and aftercare. We've got a national hotline so that you can reach us. I just did a groundbreaking for a clinic. We're paying for the construction, the capital work, to make sure that, because it's a primary care issue. This is how you do contraceptives, cancer screenings, other healthcare screenings. This is how you treat women of all ages and their families. And we're clear that in rural parts of the country, this is pivotal to overall women's health. It saves lives. So it is a very clear issue here. And I think most New Mexicans unequivocally take Trump at his word, or the lack of his ability in the debate. We believe that he will ban abortion in this country, that he's squarely on that side, that he has no understanding of the risk to women's health and their reproductive freedoms. And frankly, I said it in my address, I don't think ultimately they care about maternal well-being and health. They certainly don't care about our fundamental freedoms. It is a very critical issue in New Mexico.
Governor, do debates matter, especially the last debate between Harris and Trump? You have many Democrats feeling she had a commanding performance. Now the former president says he will not participate in another debate. It does seem sometimes, at least to me as a reporter, we're living in an episodic moment in American politics where the national memory, voter memory about some of these issues, whether it's President Biden's exit, the assassination attempt of Trump, seem to be fleeting in terms of conversations on the ground. What do you think the long-term impact of this debate is going to be, if any?
Very good question, Robert, and I'm not sure what the long-term impact is, except in this context. First, I agree with you. There's such an onslaught of information, some of it mis or disinformation, from the internet to media and radio. It's everywhere. And so it's, I think, overwhelming to most folks who may have 1 or 2 or 10 issues that they're following and to really feel like they have the facts that they need. 2, voters like being close and personal to the candidate that they are being asked to vote for, which is why you're seeing both of them. But certainly I'm seeing the vice president really do an amazing job at getting to the battleground states, getting to voters, and continuing to talk about the issues, her plans, the messages, lifting the middle class, moving forward, turning the page, the things that we want, right? Believing in the American dream, starts with believing in America. And in the debate, the former president said that we were a failed nation. And I bristle when I have anyone say anything like that. I believe in this country. We are all patriotic. We love this country. And we know that you can create an agenda and better days, but you better have a plan and a vision for that. She does. However, her commanding performance, I think, created new opportunities for people to really want to know more about her vision for America. And I think it showed once again that Trump has no plan or vision and is an angry, shallow individual who's promoting and moving towards Project 2025, no matter how he tries to disavow it, because his actions are completely reverse of that. And that he wants this sort of revenge, and it's all personal. And she made the case that her job as vice president and her future job, if elected, is to care about the rest of us. And so in that regard, I think it's really created the kind of momentum and openness for voters who are undecided to really look carefully now at the vice president.
And quickly, just in the final seconds here, Governor, would you like to see Vice President Harris come to New Mexico and campaign, or do you have everything covered and you got the win coming for the Democrats on your own?
Well, I'm feeling really good, Robert. I do. And given her positions on so many issues, including reproductive freedoms, tax breaks for the middle class, investments in small businesses, affordable housing, these are key issues in New Mexico. So I think that that resonates. Of course, New Mexico would love to have the vice president here. And I think she'd have a very strong, warm reception. But if I were a campaign strategist, I would certainly want to debate, and they are, battleground states, winning this election, being very clear about where those margins are. And today, with recent polling, we're seeing New Mexico continue to move in that vice president blue column. So I feel good, but there isn't a voter anywhere who doesn't want to see the candidates in their home states and hometowns. And the vast majority, in my view, of New Mexicans would be very excited to see Vice President Harris and or Governor Walz right here in our fair, fine, beautiful state.
It is a fair, fine, and beautiful state. I do believe, though, Governor, your neighbor, Arizona, might get a little bit more attention this time around.
Well,
Governor,
I'm happy to travel over there and to make the case myself. And I love Arizona, not the same as New Mexico, but Governor Hobbs is a great leader, and there's a lot of incredible things going on in Arizona, and we could highlight those as well.
what a neighbor. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, thank you.
Thank you.